You woke up, not gradually, but like lightning through your soul, while the world fell under the trance of approval, convenience, and performance. You unplugged from the matrix. They told you to smile, to serve, to please, and for a time, you did. But not anymore. You stopped trying to make everyone comfortable, and that's when the stairs started. People don't mind when you're exhausted as long as it benefits them. But the moment you set a boundary, the narrative flips. Suddenly, you're changing, and you are, into someone unapologetically awake. Studies show that chronic people-pleasing leads to extreme stress, anxiety, and burnout. And you lived it, carrying everyone's weight, ignoring your own needs, faking peace just to keep others happy. But the version of you that tolerated that? Retired, gone, deactivated. And now, here you are, the only one who didn't fall for the hypnosis, the only one who said no more. You didn't rebel with rage. You reclaimed yourself with silence, and it shook the system. Some people are inspired, others are furious, but all of them feel the shift. This new mindset, it's not a phase, it's your freedom, and it's dismantling every illusion that once bound you. So don't look back, chosen one, because you're not just different, you're awake and untouchable. First of all, because they took advantage of your vulnerability, your absence seems like a personal assault. Something unexpected occurs when you quit people-pleasing. Individuals who profited from your self-sacrifice feel as though they are being personally attacked by your absence, which goes undetected. They hate you because they appreciate how much you did for them, not because they love you. They don't just miss you. You were the go-to person for years because you were the one who always showed up, always said yes, and always placed the needs of others above your own, even when it was exhausting. You were always there, so they never had to worry about your presence. At awkward times, you answered their calls. You changed your plans to suit their requirements. Without hesitation, you invested your time, effort, and occasionally even money. And they continued to take as long as you continued to give. You'll notice something odd, though, when you start saying no and stop bending. Individuals who used to compliment your generosity start acting chilly. They appear aloof. They begin to use passive-aggressive language. They don't get in touch as frequently because they're testing you, not because they're busy. Their goal is to guilt-trip you into playing the same role you formerly did. Some will even attempt to blame you for the issue. In reality, they're saying, "You're no longer easy to manipulate." They were at ease with you while you were overextending yourself, so they'll say things like, "You've changed," or "You're acting funny lately." They feel as though something was taken from them now that you have boundaries. However, the fact is that they never took it in the first place. This response reveals a profound truth. Most individuals valued their access to you more than they appreciated you, and their actual emotions come to the surface when that access is restricted. The same folks who formerly grinned at you will now act as though you're self-centered. However, you no longer have to bear that load. Allow them to be angry. The clearance rack is no longer where your energy is. Second, they just lost control of you. You're not cruel. You become cruel all of a sudden when you stop trying to impress other people. You're behaving differently. You've lost some of your former kindness. Let's face it, though, you're not being cruel at all. Some folks find it uncomfortable that you've recently quit being a doormat. When you put their needs ahead of your own to make their lives simpler, they were more than happy. When you said yes to activities that exhausted you, when you held your tongue to avoid controversy, or when you canceled your plans to accommodate theirs, they didn't mind. They had nothing but positive things to say about you as long as you continued to comply. You're suddenly selfish, though, now that you're establishing limits and refusing to comply with all of their requests. What truly irritates them, though, is that you haven't changed. They've simply lost control of you. They anticipated your compassion and never really appreciated it. They believed that they were entitled to your unwavering selflessness rather than something you voluntarily offered. They're having trouble now that you've regained that authority. Your limits won't anger those who truly care about you. They won't make you feel bad about your decision. But the people who profited from your lack of dignity, they will take offense at your development. Because they can no longer control you, they will behave as though you have done something wrong, not because you have. You'll begin to realize who was genuinely on your side and who was only there to benefit from it at this point. Even if it means having less access to you, the people who truly care about you will accept the new you. Those that merely cared about what they could obtain from you will either go away, complain, or guilt trip. The only thing you've lost is the delusion that they ever genuinely appreciated you. So let them in any case. Third, the first individuals to guilt trip you will be the ones you most respect. When you quit people-pleasing, the first individuals who will guilt trip you are the ones you formerly looked up to, respected, and even adored. It will be the people you believed were on your side, who offered you guidance, and who pretended to have your best interests at heart, not the strangers or acquaintances. You might have expected resistance from toxic people, but it's shocking to see it come from people you once admired. They will be the first to say things like, "You're not the same anymore," or "You used to be so humble." In reality, they mean, "I liked you better when you didn't have boundaries." It might be a mentor, a close friend, or even a member of the family. You expected them to encourage your development, but instead, they act aloof, criticize your choices, or make crude remarks. And it hurts, since you used to rely on these individuals for insight and direction. The sad reality is that they loved you when you were subordinate to them, when you were anxious for their approval, and when you didn't question their authority. They feel intimidated because they don't know how to relate to the new you, not because you've done anything bad, but because you're standing your ground and making your own decisions without seeking their permission. They took pleasure in holding the upper hand, being the leader, and being the smart one. And they feel like they're losing control now that you're thinking for yourself. Some will cover it up as worry. What aspect of you do they fear losing? They may say things like, "I just don't want you to change too much." The component that never went out of stock. The portion that put their emotions ahead of yours. The area that need them more than you did. This has to do with control, not love. People either develop with you or turn against you when they can no longer control you. You will never feel guilt-tripped for selecting yourself by someone who genuinely appreciates you, so if they go with the latter, let them go. Fourth, your unavailability seems disrespectful to others who depended on you. People never questioned your availability when you were always accessible. They never inquired as to whether you were worn out, preoccupied, or simply wanted some alone time. Because you always did, they expected you to pick up, respond, show up, and change your life at the drop of a hat. When you eventually take a step back, it is insulting since they have become accustomed to your continual presence. But it's a correction, not an attack. The fact that they never recognized your prior availability is the true problem, not the fact that you are no longer accessible. They assumed it was inevitable. Instead of seeing your time as something you choose to offer, they regarded it as something they could use whenever they wanted. And when you stop being so approachable, they perceive it as disrespect rather than as you putting yourself first. They will appear perplexed. They'll test you by phoning at strange hours to see if you'll still answer. And they'll send messages like, "You good? Haven't heard from you in a while." However, this isn't a sincere worry. Rather, it's a clever way of asking, "Why aren't you as available to me as you used to be?" They'll make passive-aggressive remarks regarding your recent lack of engagement. The fact is that those who appreciate you will never feel entitled to your time, even when what they truly mean is, "I don't like that you're no longer at my beck and call." When you can't offer them time, they will appreciate it and won't make you feel bad about it. But the people who assumed you were a given, your limits will be taken personally by them. You can then distinguish between those who were genuinely in your life for you and those who were only there to gain access to you. Because true love is boundary respecting. It does not require unrestricted accessibility. You don't feel bad about putting yourself first. Additionally, if someone begins to treat you differently just because you aren't always accessible, it's a clue that they never appreciated you and, instead, prioritized your convenience. Fifth, others will attempt to persuade you that the previous version of yourself was superior because it benefited them. When others begin to say, "I miss the old you," avoid becoming enamored. The reason they are remembering is not because they truly cared about that version of you, but rather because it was simpler for them. Without hesitation, the old you responded, "Yes." In order to maintain harmony, the previous you gave up your enjoyment. To make people comfortable, you used to bend yourself until you broke. And now that you've changed and established boundaries, they're having trouble all of a sudden. You used to be so kind. You were always so selfless. I just feel like you're different now. Pay close attention to how they frame their purported compliments. What do these comments have in common? They are about them, not about you. Their concern is what they no longer receive from you. It's always about how much they gained from your self-sacrifice, not, "I miss how happy you were," or "I miss seeing you at peace." The thing they won't say aloud, though, is that the previous you was worn out. The previous you was continuously filling a cup that was empty. The previous version of yourself was smiling through the agony, wallowing in quiet bitterness, and wishing that one day you would be treated the same way you treated everyone else. However, that day never arrived, because takers simply keep taking until nothing is left. They don't suddenly become providers. Therefore, consider what individuals are missing when they begin to romanticize the past. Do they miss you, or do they miss the you who put their comfort ahead of your own needs? Because setting boundaries doesn't mean that genuine love, friendships, and relationships disappear. Relationships based on self-neglect are the only ones that suffer when you stop trying to satisfy everyone else. Furthermore, if someone liked you just when you were simple to utilize, they never really liked you. Sixth, to determine whether this new you is authentic, they will put you through tests. People will test you once you stop being a pushover. They won't just leave you silently. They'll push, agitate, and pressure you to try to break you back into the old mold because they don't think this new, confident version of you is genuine. There is no miscommunication. They are fully aware of what is taking place. Simply put, they dislike what it implies to them. It is subtle at first. When someone knows you don't want to perform a tiny favor, they will casually ask for it. They may appear shocked and possibly even a bit offended when you answer no. They won't stop there, though. After a few days, they'll try again. If that doesn't work, they'll escalate. They may reword it, make it appear urgent, or guilt-trip you by saying, "I just thought you'd be there for me." In reality, they're saying, "I thought I could still manipulate you." They'll remind you of all the times you said yes in the past. "You never used to have a problem with this," they would comment, as though your own development were a bother. In all honesty, it is, as they found it simpler to cope with the previous iteration of you. You weren't a demanding person in the past. Here's where you need to remain resilient, though, since the test isn't about what they're asking, but rather if they can still manipulate you. They can tell your limits aren't genuine the instant you give in. They are aware that all they need to do is exert more effort the following time. However, they will be forced to recognize that the version of you they know is no longer there if you are tough and mean it when you say no. Some will adapt. They'll understand that they must show you respect or risk losing you. Others, though, they'll attack, vanish, or paint you as the bad guy. In any case, let them go since they were never really on your side in the first place, if they just wanted you when you were convenient. Seventh, love respects limits, so you'll find out who truly loves you. Finding out how many relationships in your life were based on your self-sacrifice is one of the most startling aspects of escaping people-pleasing. You expose people, not just lose them, because true love celebrates your boundaries rather than merely tolerating them. Your development won't ever annoy those who genuinely care about you. They won't make you feel bad about putting yourself first. Saying no won't get you punished. They will really respect you more as a result, because true love is founded on who you are, not on how much you can do for someone. Then there are the others, the people who accuse you of being selfish for finally acting in your own best interests, and who become aloof, cold, or even irate when you stop being accessible all the time. These individuals were in your life because they appreciated what you did for them, not because they loved you. And they show their true colors as soon as you stop pushing yourself too far. Some people will attempt to influence you to return to your former self. I just feel like you don't care anymore. You've changed. I guess I just don't matter to you now. These are all attempts to manipulate you, guilt-trip you, and play the victim. But pay close attention. None of these claims are about you. They are about them. It's not your alleged selfishness, it's their lack of control. This is when you start to see things clearly. Your folks are the ones that stick with you, the ones who accept your limits without fussing over them. The version of you that worked for them is not the one they adore. You now know exactly who is deserving of your time and effort, therefore, that's a gift. Therefore, don't be sad for those that go. Let them go because you're gaining love, not losing it, when you stop trying to please other people. Eighth, you begin to experience an inner calm that is initially somewhat strange. The guilt begins to seep in. You hesitate before sending a text that sets a limit, wondering whether you're being too strict. A small voice in your brain asks, "Was that selfish?" when you say no to something you would have immediately agreed to in the past. Naturally, it seems terrible at first since you've been socialized to associate self-respect with misbehavior for years. Then, however, something unexpected occurs. The calm, the quiet, the place that was formerly occupied by duty, worry, and tension all of a sudden seems empty, not in a lonely manner, but in a freeing one. The continual barrage of requests, the forced discussions with people you secretly hated, and the weight of expectations suffocating you beneath their unseen pressure are all gone for the first time in a long time. You alone, living your life as you see fit. At first, it nearly seems strange, as if something is missing. However, you come to the realization that what's missing isn't something you needed, but rather something that was exhausting you. The phony friendships that only lasted because you were too scared to leave. The responsibilities you felt bad about turning down but never really wanted. And the ongoing pressure to be approachable, amiable, and easy to get along with. Everything is gone. And where did it go? There was a sensation of strength, a calm assurance, and a lightness that you were unaware you were permitted to have. You quit questioning yourself. You no longer feel the need to justify every choice you make. You quit feeling bad for just doing what's right for you. Then it dawns on me. This is how life was always meant to feel. A steady, unwavering tranquility that comes from knowing you don't have to, rather than a never-ending loop of proving your value to those who never understood it. Loneliness is not this. Selfishness is not what this is. Freedom is this. You won't be able to taste it again. 9. You see that nice was just a cover for dread. You believed for a long time that you were just a nice person, the one who always made sure everyone was comfortable, even at your own price, and avoided confrontation. You convinced yourself that being nice was just who you were, and you wore it like a badge of pride. However, what is the reality? You were that way because of fear, not out of love. You weren't being kind. You were afraid, fearful of being rejected, afraid of disappointing others, afraid of what would happen if you ceased being approachable. You didn't say yes when you wanted to say no because you were unselfish. Rather, you did it out of fear of the reaction of others. You believed that people would leave if you established limits. Speaking your mind would be viewed as challenging. You'd be on your own if you stopped being so accommodating. Now, though, you're finished with it now. You are no longer playing the nice game. You're being honest. Furthermore, being honest entails giving up your peace of mind in order to appear acceptable, filtering your words to make others feel comfortable, and repressing your own wants to avoid disappointing others. It's true that some people will find this new you problematic. The version of you that skirted their emotions was one that they felt at ease with. Even at your own expense, they preferred the version of you that prioritized them. The problem is that it's their problem, not yours. Since genuine connections, friendships, love, and relationships don't necessitate fear. To be accepted, you don't have to be a shrink. Even if you say no, those who are genuinely a part of your life will respect you. Even if you don't go above and above for them, they will still value you. And those who are incapable of managing it, they were there for what your anxiety caused you to do for them, not for you. 10th, you no longer feel the need for acceptance. Therefore, your energy seems magnetic. There is an indisputable quality to someone who is aware of their value. And when you stop people-pleasing, when you finally stop pleading for acceptance, that's precisely what happens to you in tear. It's not arrogance, it's not entitlement, it's just certainty. A quiet, unwavering assurance that says, I don't need your validation to feel whole. You quit giving explanations to those who never paid attention. You quit apologizing excessively for things that don't need it. You quit trying to change who you are to fit their expectations of you. Suddenly, you notice a change in your energy as well as your behavior. People sense it. Everything changes, including your speech, your mannerisms, and your manner of walking. You're not acting out of desperation anymore. You're not attempting to show your value to those who were first unable to see it. Ironically, this is what increases your level of respect. Suddenly, the same people who used to ignore you, reject you, or take you for granted have a new perspective on you. Because the reality is that confidence attracts, while desperation repels. People could tell when you were always trying to get their approval. Some even took advantage of the fact that they knew you were frightened of being hated. Now, though, you no longer give a damn if others like you or not. You have already chosen yourself, You are not waiting to be selected. This is the point at when everything shifts. You give up on relationships that have depleted you. People who merely appreciated your obedience are no longer amusing you. And without even trying, you begin drawing in people who are as energetic as you are. People who don't require you to be smaller in order to fit in. Real power looks like this: simply being there without pressuring, proving, or pleading. You won't ever settle for anything less when you enter that. 11th, you won't miss the 80% of your social circle that you will lose. It stings at first. The change is instantly apparent to you. The texts that used to pour in, quiet. The calls that used to entice you to do favors at the last minute, lost. The phony invites, the ones sent out just because they knew you would accept, overnight, they get dry. For a minute, you question whether you made a mistake by deciding to say no, creating boundaries, or selecting yourself. Then, however, an odd event occurs. That burdensome sensation you've always had but never challenged begins to fade. The fatigue you believe to be a natural aspect of life, it diminishes, and you come to the overwhelming realization that you are detoxifying, not losing anything. The majority of those that vanished weren't really pals. Your tribe wasn't them. They were emotional leeches who stayed because they appreciated what you did for them, not because they thought highly of you. They have no need for you now that you're not going out of your way, no longer presenting yourself as a place to unload your emotions. That is freedom, not loss. The quiet that used to be so loud, it settles down. The room that used to seem empty, something greater fills it. Your own vitality, your own aspirations, your own presence. You invest in activities that genuinely nourish you instead of hanging out with people who deplete you. Slowly but surely, amazing things begin to happen. The proper people begin to show up. People who appreciate you, not just what they can get from you, who respect your time, and who don't require you to give anything to be in their lives. Yes, you will lose around 80% of your social network. The only relationships that failed were those that needed your self-abandonment to live, so you won't miss them when you look back. And anything that falls apart the instant you decide for yourself. In the first place, it was never substantial. Number 12. The appropriate individuals understand you without you having to explain yourself. You first feel compelled to provide an explanation. You believe that others would respect your transformation if they only knew why you've changed. You end up over-explaining in an attempt to convince them that you're not being self-centered and that you're just appreciating yourself at last. However, certain individuals will always push back, regardless of how well you explain. They continue to guilt-trip. They continue to act as though your development is a bother. Then it dawns on you, the appropriate individuals understand without needing an explanation. They don't take offense since they understand your boundaries. They don't ask for explanations after seeing your change. They realize that you don't have to apologize to anyone for your personal development. However, those who persist in asking questions like, "Why are you acting different? What happened to the old you?" and "Are you mad at me?" are not seeking clarification. Rather, they are seeking a means of regaining access. They only want to persuade you back into your old habits. They don't genuinely want to comprehend your improvement. They want to undermine your logic, get you to question yourself, and trick you into thinking that you could be the issue. However, you're not. You ultimately cease elaborating. You quit defending yourself. When someone has already determined that your limits are an attack on them, you stop spending your time attempting to persuade them. You understand that genuine ones will appreciate your improvement, acknowledge it, and make the necessary adjustments. They will never ask you to prove it. And those who decline, in any case, they were never truly listening. Number 13. People who haven't discovered their power get insecure as a result of yours. Something changes when you take charge of your life, not only in yourself, but also in the way others view you. You'll see it in no time. Some people will begin to act aloof. Others will minimize your progress with little, snide remarks. This has nothing to do with you, despite the fact that others may even call you conceited, self-centered, or not the same person anymore. Their uncertainty is the issue, not your confidence. People are forced to examine themselves when they stop minimizing themselves and when they stop asking for permission to live completely. And that might feel like an assault to people who haven't discovered their own strength. Your presence serves as a reminder of the task they have still to complete. Not that you are doing anything to them. It will serve as motivation for some. These are the people who will honor your development, applaud you, and perhaps even embark on their own path after witnessing your metamorphosis and thinking, if they can do it, maybe I can too. Others, though, your confidence will be interpreted as an insult by them, because they realize deep down that they're still living in fear, caught up in cycles of seeking acceptance, and scared to assert their value. They will feel vulnerable when they witness your confidence, and they lash out rather than making the effort to adapt. They make fun of it. They minimize. In order to avoid having to confront the painful reality that they could also possess this power, they attempt to drag you back down, but they are unwilling to put in the necessary effort to acquire it. However, it is their fight, not yours. Just because it makes someone else uncomfortable doesn't mean you have to turn down the lights. To prevent people from feeling left behind, you don't need to slow down your development. Being totally present, regardless of who is capable of handling it, is what true power is all about, not making someone feel insignificant. And those who are unable to, let them handle that themselves. Number 14. Since their acts provided the closure, you no longer look for it. You eventually become weary of the lengthy discussions, the protracted justifications, and the neatly resolved conclusion when everything makes sense. You give up waiting for an unattainable apology. You give up on the idea that they'll wake up out of the blue, realize the harm they caused, and fix it. Because you now realize something more profound. The closure came from their acts. The falsehoods? That was the conclusion. The trickery? That was the conclusion. The way they disregarded your emotions, disregarded your limits, or caused you to doubt your value, that was the conclusion. At the time, you just didn't want to accept it, since doing so would have required you to give up the notion that others shared your level of concern. Previously, you hoped that if you could simply articulate your suffering sufficiently, they would finally understand. That if you could find the perfect words, they would suddenly understand how deeply they wounded you. However, that isn't how it operates. You don't have to plead for understanding from those who care. And those who don't give a damn? They will never be changed by an explanation. You close the door for yourself, not because they provided you with the closure you had been seeking, but because you finally gave it to yourself, rather than waiting or mentally reliving the past in an attempt to make meaning of it. You don't require their comprehension. They don't have to apologize to you. They are not required to vouch for your experience. You experienced it. You sensed it. And that's sufficient. You now go on because you refused to allow them to continue to occupy your life, not because they repaired what they had damaged. That's true closure, the type that comes from you and not from them. The fact is that when you stop satisfying other people, everything changes. Not because you've turned into someone you're not, but because you've finally found your own self. You no longer devote your life to please those who never appreciated you. You no longer have to defend yourself to those who are determined to misunderstand you. You no longer have to plead for affection that ought to have come naturally to you. It's true that the change is uncomfortable. After severing links, the stillness initially seems deafening. The guilt begins to seep in. Your old behaviors are trying to drag you down. Then, though, something amazing occurs. You begin to feel liberated. The weight rises. The fatigue subsides. And you stop being a supporting figure in other people's lives and start living for yourself for the first time. Your development will be resented by some and respected by others. However, all of that is no longer relevant, because you don't lose when you make the decision to be yourself, when you establish limits, and when you leave situations that demand your betrayal. You win. You become more respectable. You achieve inner tranquility. You get the type of unassailable power. Life was always meant to feel like this, a stable, unwavering feeling of self rather than a never-ending struggle for acceptance. And you're never going back now that you've discovered it. If this message resonated with you, if you experienced a profound internal transformation, or if you had the realization, yes, this is exactly what I needed to hear, don't keep it to yourself. Please click the like button, leave a comment below, and forward this to someone who could benefit from the reminder. And because this is only the beginning, be sure to subscribe to the channel and enable those alerts if you're prepared for even more truth, clarity, and unreserved self-improvement. We're pushing harder, going deeper, and embracing the power that has always been ours. This trip, it isn't suitable for everyone. I already know it's for you, though. If you're still here and watching, let's continue. Let's continue to expand. And in the next one, I'll see you.